All right, and here we go. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Winter Wonderland adventure, and we are going down under with Go2Science. And with that, let's hand it over to Beth and Curtis.
Go to science. Go to science. What's that? What's what? That there? Who knows? You wish someone would help you figure it out. Research, observe, deduce, and share the scientific process. It will help you, no doubt. So what do you do if you want to know more? You should join our crew and we'll go and explore. Go to science. Vote on adventures while you make new friends. Go to science. There's so much to see and do. Go to science. When there's science involved, the wonders never end. Go to science, and we'll bring the data to you, and we'll do the science with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special episode of Go2Science. I'm Curtis, I'm a scientist.
I'm Beth and I'm a teacher, and we are so excited to be with you here today. Yay!
Yay, we are.
We go on real world science research adventures all around the world. And next up is an adventure in Australia where we're investigating a hypothesis about kangaroos.
Yeah, Australia is known for a lot of things like the Great Barrier Reef, the outback, rainforests, koalas, platypuses, and of course, kangaroos. And Australia is a really unique place, and in many ways, it's very different from where you and I live in the United States.
For example, where you live in Kansas and where we live in Maine in the United States, it's headed into winter. But Australia is headed into summer.
Yeah.
And that's because Australia is in the southern hemisphere and Kansas and Maine are in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, that means Australia is below the equator.
That's a lot of big ideas. You know what? Let's get the globe to help understand it a little better.
I love globes. They're my favorite map because you can see the whole world at once.
Yay!
Yeah, so this is a globe of our planet Earth. And all the blue stuff on here is water, like oceans, and all the colored stuff is land. They have different colors. And all these different colors are really countries, or they're countries, so we can tell them apart on the map. But in real life, of course, you wouldn't see all these colors on the globe. And hopefully you can see this dotted black line. This marks the very center of the Earth. It's halfway from the top and halfway from the bottom. It's called the equator. And of course, you wouldn't see the equator if you visited the equator, but you would know that you're halfway from the top and the bottom of Earth. And on the stuff above the equator is called the northern hemisphere. And it has countries like Mexico, the United States, Canada, and even the North Pole's up here in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, that's all the way down, from the line down, there are lots of different places, like most of Brazil's in the southern hemisphere, Argentina, the country of Madagascar is in the southern hemisphere, and of course, Australia. But what's really cool is because the Earth is tilted, when we're having winter up here in the northern hemisphere, they're having summer down here in the southern hemisphere.
Well, hemisphere just means half a sphere,
Yeah.
and a sphere is a ball shape like our globe.
Yeah.
But let's do a little word breakdown to help us pronounce and remember the word hemisphere.
Yeah, very important word. Yeah.
Ready? Everybody say hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
Oh, great. Now clap each syllable.
Hem.
Sphere. Nice job.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take it apart. Put your arm out like this and we'll tap wrist, elbow, shoulder, head. Just keep tapping syllables until you run out of syllables or body parts. Ready? Let's try it. Hem, sphere. Oh, Miss Henry's class are experts at this. Let's do it again. Hem, sphere. And zip it up. Hemisphere.
Yeah,
Yay.
3 syllables, not one word. And that's an important word. Half of a sphere.
Half of a sphere. Remember, a sphere is a ball shape like the globe or this grapefruit, and a hemisphere is just half of that shape.
This is interesting. Ooh, who knew a hemisphere could taste so good? Yep. Yummy.
Oh, Curtis. Well, While Curtis cleans up,
Oh,
I
sorry.
want to show you how we got to Australia,
Yes.
where we're staying, and talk a little bit more about seasons.
Yeah, excellent.
So let's get ready. Zip your mouths and open your ears so you can be extra good listeners. Oh, nice. Turn your brains on to high power for your best thinking ever. And watch carefully. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Go to science, and we'll bring the data to you, and we'll do the science with you.
It is a long, long way from Maine to Australia.
First, we traveled from our headquarters in Maine all the way to Texas. It took about 6 hours to get to Dallas, Texas. And then we had to take a train to get to our next plane.
Our next flight went all the way to Australia. There was a camera mounted on the tail of the plane so we could look outside as we took off.
Cool.
After the sun went down, they brought us some delicious dinner. I had some pasta with vegetables. I love vegetables. Yummy!
They also gave us a snack and breakfast. It was a very, very, very long flight.
After 16 hours, we finally landed in Sydney, Australia. Then we had to get onto one more plane. This time we flew from Sydney to Brisbane, Australia.
After a few more hours, we landed. We were glad to be done flying. Next, we picked up a camper van.
Hey, everybody. We made it to Australia.
Yay!
Yeah. And now we're getting ready to go out and test our hypothesis.
Absolutely. And we thought you might want to see where we'll be staying for the whole mission.
Yep. And that is right behind us.
That's it. That's where we're staying. Let's go check it out.
I like this little table. You can go like that. I can push it out of the way so Curtis can get in. And at nighttime, this table becomes part of the bed. So there's a place to cook here. There's a stove top and there's a little microwave and a teeny tiny refrigerator. Inside here is a closet so we can hang our clothes up. There's a sink and more things that we'll need for cooking.
Oh, look at that. You push the knobs and the doors open. Cool.
And if you push the knobs in, the doors are locked shut. So when you're moving, things don't all open.
Camper vans are little houses on wheels.
Wait a minute. It looks like the driver is on the other side of the car.
That's right. In Australia, the driver sits on the right-hand side of the car and the passenger sits on the left-hand side of the car.
And I love this sign.
No smoking.
All right. Well, thanks for showing us the camper van.
Oh, you're welcome.
Home away from home.
That's right. Bye.
It's summer in Australia.
It was 42 degrees Celsius. That's the same as 107 degrees Fahrenheit. No wonder I'm sweating.
This is our planet, Earth. The equator splits it into a northern and southern hemisphere. Earth spins around its axis once a day, causing day and night. Because the Earth is tilted on its axis, we have seasons. Not all parts of the Earth are equally warmed by the sun. That's how it can be winter in the United States while it's summer in Australia. But when the Earth is on the other side of the sun, Australia has winter and the United States has summer.
As the sun went down, megabats came out. They are sometimes called flying foxes. They are some of the largest bats in the world. They are a kind of fruit bat, and while they eat fruit, they often eat pollen and nectar from flowers.
It was time for bed. We had to change our camper van from the daytime setup to the nighttime setup. I think it's fun to do. It's a bit like building a fort.
Watch.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
I just love our cute little camper van.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's really super amazing that because the Earth tilts on its axis in the path it takes around the sun, we can have different seasons in the Northern Hemisphere and in the Southern Hemisphere at the same time.
Right. And you can collect evidence of that motion using a sun tracker. They're easy to make. We'll show you how. You can do it at home or at school. Here, I've got a few little things that you need. First of all, you need a sunny window with a windowsill. Then you need something to put in that window, a little piece of paper with a hole in it. We cut ours in the shape of the sun, but yours could be any shape. You need a piece of plain paper.
Like this.
Some tape to attach things.
Yeah.
And something to write with.
Oh, like this.
Now, let me show you how this all gets set up with a spiffy little diagram. All right. So this is the sun, and the sun is shining through this window. When the sun and the sun tracker is taped near the bottom part of that sunny window, and then there's a piece of paper taped to the windowsill. When the sun shines through the window, the sun tracker blocks its rays to create a shadow on the paper, like right here. Well, the little spot of light in the center of that shadow is caused by the hole in the sun tracker. Can you see that tiny little thing? Well, you need to mark that spot on the paper. It's also a great idea to put down the time and date that you do that. Then you leave your sun tracker right there. And the next day at the same time, come back and make a new spot in wherever that light spot is on your sun tracker. And do this as many days as you can.
Yeah. The more days you do it, the better, because we're moving around the sun all the time. And so if you can track that movement for a week, that's good. If you can do it for a month, that's even better. If you can do it for 2 or 3 months, that's great. And if you could do it all year, you would track our travels around the sun on planet Earth for that whole year. You get a really neat pattern on your piece of paper.
You know, it's fun to do at school, but if you do it at home, that's fun too, because I have a friend in Maine who did that for the whole year and left the marks all over his floor. Check with your adults. Be sure to check with your adults.
Yeah. And if you have a cloudy day, just skip that day. That's okay. Or even 2 cloudy days. You can just skip it and just start marking when you can.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Curtis? I love to gather evidence and analyze it. I love to go on field adventures and share those with you. But I most of all love answering your questions. And I'm wondering if we've got any friends in Ms. Henry's class or other friends in the chat box that have questions for us so far. We can take just a couple of minutes and
have a couple questions.
Satisfy your curiosity. Let's see, any questions from Ms. Henry's class or Mrs. Smokes? Got something to say.
Maybe not.
She's unmuting. We're just getting her set up there. And while she's getting all set up, the one question that we had is, how many animals do you get to see when you go to Australia?
Oh my goodness, we can see lots of different kinds of animals, and sometimes hundreds, maybe thousands of each kind. What are some of the animals we can see in Australia, Curtis?
Well, it depends on where we are in Australia and what you can see. So we can see lots of marsupials. Australia's kind of famous for that. So like behind us, we have, on this side, we have the koalas. We can see koalas. We can see platypuses, echidnas, kangaroos, wallabies, wallaroos, bats, lots of birds and parrots on land, as well as snakes and spiders and all those kinds of things, which are amazing. I love seeing those things. If we were to get in the water, we'd see lots of things in the water too, like corals and fish and that kind of thing too.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will do that.
A lot of really fascinating wildlife in Australia, things that we don't have in the United States.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Mrs. Henry, your question.
One of my students wants to know, how hot does it get in Australia?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. It gets very, very hot.
It can get very hot. That day we were there, it was 107 degrees. So that's a little warm, even by Midwestern standards. It can get quite hot. It can get well above that, 117. And it also gets cold. People think of Australia as just a warm place, but it's actually got some mountains in it that have snow, and there are ski resorts or people who go up and ski. So it depends on where you are in Australia.
Well, like the United States, Australia is a very large country, but I would say more of Australia has a warm climate all year round than the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks for that question. Do we have another?
Yes, we have one more.
Okay.
You have to stand here and ask them. Nice and loud. What types of birds?
What types of birds? I mean, are there the same types of birds as they are?
Are there different bird species in Australia than in the US?
Yes. There are hundreds of different birds in Australia that we don't have in the US, like the emu. We don't have that. Kookaburra, which is a very famous one. There's a number of parrots that are here that we don't have in the United States.
How about the cassowary?
Cassowary is another bird. It's a large bird. It's sort of in between an emu and an ostrich, but you don't have those in the United States either.
Yeah, there's a lot of different wildlife.
The bird you see behind us on the wall, those pictures, that's a rainbow lorikeet. They're here in Australia, but they're not in the United States, not in the wild.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad you're
for the
interested
question.
in birds. Birds are fascinating.
Yeah. Well,
Mrs. Smoke, do we have another question from the chat before we move on?
I think we can jump forward.
All right. Excellent.
Excellent. Well, we're here testing our hypothesis about kangaroos, but our friend and scientist, Dr. Herbert, is also doing research on kangaroos here with her student, Mikkel. And so we thought we would join them for a day and see what they're doing, because we were very curious about that. They're doing some really important work about kangaroos and the populations, or how many kangaroos there are.
Oh, it was awesome. And we're going to show you just a little bit more of a field video. So check it out.
This is great.
We stayed in a camper van park right near the coast. That's where Dr. Herbert's doing her work. These black red-tailed cockatoos greeted us upon our arrival.
Dr. Herbert and her student Mikkel arrived bright and early the next morning to take us to the field with them.
Soon, we saw gray kangaroos. Dr. Herbert darted it with a tranquilizer to make it sleepy.
We waited for it to get sleepy. Working with sleepy kangaroos is much safer for us and a lot easier on the kangaroos.
We put the kangaroo in a bag to keep it calm. It made it easier to move around and to study.
Curtis and Mikkel checked the kangaroo's health. It was a bit like getting a checkup at the doctor's office. We checked the health of its teeth.
Its front teeth look a bit like a rodent's, but it's not a rodent, it's a marsupial. We took a close look at the kangaroo's foot. They are well adapted for hopping. They have 4 toes. The big toe is a springboard for saltation or jumping.
We checked inside its pouch. She had a very young Joey, only about 5 weeks old. It has no fur. Its eyes are fused shut. It's far too young to leave its mother's pouch. We fitted the kangaroo with a radio collar so Dr. Herbert would know where it was when she couldn't see it.
Then we put tags in its ears so Dr. Herbert could identify this kangaroo when she sees it again. The tranquilizer from the dart was wearing off, so we moved on.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that field video.
It was so cool getting up close to that kangaroo.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed looking in the pouch at that baby kangaroo. That was fascinating how small that little Joey was.
Oh, you said it, Curtis. Fascinating. Kangaroos are fascinating animals.
They are in more ways than one. They're mammals like us, but they're a special group of mammals called marsupials. And marsupials share similar traits to each other. And one of those things is a pouch. The females have a pouch where they raise their young. And marsupials are things like koala bears, or koalas are not really bears, we'll just call them koalas, wombats, wallaroos, and of course, kangaroos.
Yay, kangaroos. Well, you know,
I forgot to mention that you don't have to go to Australia to see a marsupial. You can see one right there in Wichita, in Kansas, and we can see them in Maine. We have a marsupial. We only have one in the United States, and it's called an opossum, or opossum for short. Those are marsupials. If you ever get a close look at one, you'll see they have a pouch too.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It was also really cool that we got to see that tranquilized kangaroo up so close. We could really take a look at it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we even got to check out its teeth. That was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Teeth can tell us a lot about an animal. Hey, I was thinking, when I think about that, I have a few skulls, a cast of skulls from animals in Australia. Maybe we can show them to you and you can tell us what you think they are, which animal each skull belongs to.
All right, so let's show you the first one.
Okay.
Take a close look and be thinking, what animal is this from? And if you're joining us on chat, you can put your answers in the chat box and we'll check in with Ms. Henry's class too.
Yeah, so this is a side view of the skull. This is the front where its nose would be. This is the back of the skull. Its eye would go right here, or went right here. And this is its lower jaw. And I'll turn it over so you can see the top of its skull. Again, the back of the skull, the nose, and the eyes go here. What's really fascinating to me about this mammal skull is that it's not only a mammal, it's a marsupial. So we were talking about that earlier. And I love its front teeth. This is where its nose would have been. But look at these front teeth up top here. They look kind of like ours, flat and broad. But the bottom jaw, the front teeth there, are sharp and pointed. And that's because this is a browser, which means it eats grass and plants close to the ground. And this is really good for cutting grass and leaves close to the ground. And back here, on both of its jaws, you can see it's got some bumpy teeth. Great for grinding up tough grasses and things like that.
Fantastic.
So maybe somebody has a guess. Oh, I have one more clue too.
All right, what's your next clue?
These animals move in a very special way. We call it saltation or saltate, and they can't move backwards very easily. So maybe that's enough of clues for everybody to figure this one out.
It can't move backwards.
Not
Any
easily,
ideas
not hard.
about what animal this skull belonged to?
Mrs. Henry, we're going to pass it to you first.
Our choices are a lizard or some type of bird. Or kangaroo.
Or a bird. I can see that. It does have sort of a lizard-shaped head.
It does, or a bird. But no, this is a mammal. And not only is it a mammal, it's a marsupial.
Oh, I like that you're using those clues though.
And it does this.
Oh, it does this? That's what saltation means?
Yeah, hopping.
Huh, what could it
moves by
be? What
hopping.
could it be?
I
We
think
have
we're all in
another
agreement that it is that kangaroo.
Yes.
That's right. It's an eastern gray kangaroo. Yep. Well done.
Fantastic. Well, I think we did pretty well with that one.
I did.
Let's try another.
Ooh, these are going to get harder.
They are. They are. I will
Gotta
warn you now.
Use your imagination. Remember, you're in Australia.
All right. So it's an animal from Australia. And here is the next skull. Oh, that one's smaller, isn't
Yes, this one's much, much smaller. So this is the back of the skull. This is the front of the skull. You're looking down on top. This is where its nose is. And this is where the eyes were. I'll turn around its side so you can get a look at the side. So that's where the eye was and the front of the nose. And look at his jaw. It doesn't have any teeth. It has pads.
Those yellow things aren't teeth. They're just pads.
They're just pads. So
Wow.
here's a clue. This is a mammal too, but it's not a marsupial. It's something called a monotreme, which is kind of a fancy word for an egg-laying mammal.
Wait
These
a minute.
mammals,
A mammal that lays eggs?
yeah, there are only a few in the world and they live in Australia. And it lives in the water. It's really at home in the water, and it hunts for food in the bottom of streams and ponds and lakes by using its nose, going along looking for crayfish and worms and small fish.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
Fascinating. All
that is
right.
the animal. And that one more clue is if you were to put skin on, when it had skin or flesh on it,
Mhm.
maybe I can hold that real quick.
Yeah.
Make this easier. So this is its nose. This is the top view. This is this big broad areas of its nose. When this had flesh or skin on it, it looked a lot like a duckbill.
So let me recap here. It's a mammal, but it lays eggs and it
Yes.
looks like it has a duckbill.
Yes.
So like
And it swims really
and
well.
it swims, and mammals have fur and feed their
Yeah.
fur or hair, and they feed their young.
Yeah. And what's also
milk.
really amazing about this particular animal is it's venomous.
What?
It's got a spur, a bony, pointy thing on its ankle or near its foot. And if it jabs you with it, it injects venom and it can make you sick.
It sounds like you're making this animal up, Curtis.
You know, for
Wow.
a while, scientists thought this animal might be made up, that there was a hoax being played on them, but it's no hoax.
They thought it was a joke. Wow.
Any guess? Any guesses?
Right. What do we think? What could it be?
Mrs. Henry, what do you think?
Our guess is a platypus.
Bingo.
Yes.
Well done.
They are
Yeah.
outrageous animals, aren't they?
So it's a mammal, it's a monotreme, which means it lays eggs. It has a duck bill, it has webbed feet, and it has a venomous spur. The males do have a venomous spur on its ankle. And it's got a tail, kind of like a beaver.
Wow.
What an amazing animal.
That is amazing. I think we've got time for another.
Ooh,
right.
one more. Okay,
All right,
this one's even harder.
super tricky. All right, let's take a look. What could that little skull belong to?
So this is the back of the skull. This is the front, its nose. You can see the little holes for its nostrils. It has two just like we do. And this is where its eyes were, right here. So I'm going to turn it on its side and it's going to look really weird. Like, where's its lower jaw?
Yeah, where is its lower jaw, Curtis?
It has one. It's just very small. It has no teeth. It looks a lot like a bird, but it's not a bird. It's a mammal. And it's also a monotreme. It's another egg-laying mammal. These are really rare. These are kind of unique for mammals. They don't occur anywhere else in the world besides Australia. And so this one, even more bizarre to me, is that it has quills like a porcupine. They're big fat quills, yeah, all over its body. It digs in the ground, is a super good digger, and it eats things like ants and termites and other insects, but it has no teeth and it has a long tongue.
Wow. All right. Let's see if we've got some guesses about that fascinating critter. Who does this skull belong to?
Oh, I see lots of hands popping out. Excellent.
Oh, Miss Henry, who is it?
1, 2, 3. Anteater.
Oh, that is an excellent guess because it
That
does. It's
long
got the
tongue.
long nose. It eats ants and termites, but this is not an anteater. Anteaters are not monotremes. They're not egg-laying mammals. This is an egg-laying mammal.
But the long nose and the long tongue and the eating ants. I like how you're thinking, Ms.
Yeah.
Henry's class.
There's another species of this animal that lives in Australia. This is a short-nosed one. The long-nosed one's about that much longer than its nose is. Yeah.
What do you think, Mrs. Smoke? Is there another guest coming in on chat?
Anteaters where we were going too. You've stumped us, Beth and Curtis.
All right. Well, this will solve everything. Now you know what it is,
Now you
right?
know.
Now, what is it, Curtis?
That's a short-nosed echidna.
An echidna?
And those,
like this one.
like that one, yeah, it's a life-size one over there. Yeah. So you see the quills on its back, it's covered with those, and those quills are made from its hair. Those quills are actually made up the same stuff as their hair. And you can see the claw on the back foot there. The claws are excellent diggers. And you can only find these in the wild in Australia.
Wow, that Australia is just full of fascinating animals.
It really is.
And they're all enjoying summer right now.
That's right. Now they're going into summer. It's getting hot.
It's fascinating.
So then we have some questions.
Yeah, Mrs. Smoke, do we have time for a question or two?
We sure do. One of the questions that we're asking is with a echidna. We're having a hard time saying that word. They're even spelling it. Can you help us out?
Sure.
E-C-H-I-D, a kid, and then N-A, a kid.
So let's do it slower. E-C-H-I-D-N-A.
And echidna.
Echidna.
Short nose. This one's a short nosed.
No,
There's a
It is-
long nosed one too, and they live in Australia as well.
they're fascinating.
They are. They don't move very fast. They're kind of like a porcupine. They kind of waddle along. They don't move very quickly, but they're covered in spines and they can dig. When they get startled, they'll just dig into the ground, and all you'll see are the spines sticking above the ground. They'll just dig right down and hunker in the ground. It's quite funny, quite effective too.
Oh, fantastic.
Miss Henry, your question.
Our first question is, are there the same number of hours in a day in Australia as there is in the US?
Oh,
Yeah.
great question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there are 24 hours.
Mhm.
Yep.
It just
So-
happens that when it's daytime for the United States, it's nighttime
Mhm.
for Australia. Just like when it's winter for the US, it's summer for Australia.
But there are different reasons for those things. It's
Mhm.
nighttime and daytime because of the spin of the earth. So the earth is spinning around. And so part of the time it's in the sun, part of the time you're in the dark. Well, we're on the opposite side of the earth from Australia. So when we're in the light, it's mostly in the dark. And you know, the same during when we're in the day or nighttime, they're in the daytime.
Oh, I love how you're thinking.
Yeah.
Excellent. You said that was your first question. You have another?
Yes. The next question is, how long does the tranquilizer last on the animals?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that depends on how big the animal is, how excited the animal was before it was tranquilized. If it was running really fast, the tranquilizer won't last as long, but they last 20 to 30 minutes, something like that, before they start getting up and really start moving. And so, and you want to leave them alone. So once the tranquilizer starts to wear off, we move away from them because we don't want to startle them.
But we stay in the area watching to make sure that while the tranquilizer is wearing off and the kangaroo is starting to move again, that it's safe and
It
healthy.
stays safe. Yeah.
It's kind of funny to watch them when they start hopping, when
Yeah.
they're still a little bit sleepy. They're,
They kind of stagger about.
they're a little clumsy.
All right, we have a question also. With the kangaroo, do you see them coming in just small groups? Do they come in large groups when you see them?
Yeah, well, a group of kangaroos is called a mob,
Mhm.
and they vary anywhere from 2 or 3 up to 20 or 30. And it just varies depending on where you are. Usually you see them in groups of 5 to 10, something like that, but they can be quite large groups.
So it's like a whole classroom of kids.
It
Yes.
is.
Can you imagine if the whole classroom could jump like kangaroos?
Yeah.
It would be a lively classroom if it was a
Yeah.
kangaroo classroom.
So here's a question. What do you call the baby of a koala? What's it called? You know, kangaroo babies are called joeys, but what's a koala baby called? Anybody know? Well,
I do.
oh,
Let's see.
Is it just,
Would it be
go ahead, Miss Henry.
a cub?
That makes sense.
That's
A cub.
That's a good guess, but it's really easy. So they have the same name as the babies of a wombat and the same name as the babies of a kangaroo. They're all called joeys.
Oh, I wonder how they got that name.
I don't know the answer to that, actually. Yeah.
Wow.
I know where the name kangaroo came from, but I don't know where the name for joeys came from.
Excellent. Well, oh my goodness. If unless we have any other questions, Mrs. Smoke, I know it's getting close to time to leave.
I think unless Miss Henry has one last one, the only question we have in the chat here is, did you love staying in Australia? Is it cooler than the US?
Oh, is it cooler than the it's warmer than the US, that's for sure.
Right now, yeah.
And is it cooler? You know, it's hard to say. There are things that I really, really, really love about Australia and things that make me want to stay forever. But it's hard to say that one is cooler than the other. I love being in the camper van. I love a school that we visited that was amazing. They had a saltwater swimming pool and all sorts of cool things. So I don't know. It's a hard one for me to answer.
I love all the wildlife as well and the different kinds of wildlife, but that tends to be the way I am. My favorite animals tend to be the ones I'm looking at the moment.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So
anyways, I think it's time for us to go. And again, I want to say we're so happy that we could share part of our field research adventure with you today.
yeah, and you know what? There's a whole lot more to this Australian adventure, like
yes.
skydiving and crocodiles and koalas and platypuses, and of course, lots and lots and lots of kangaroos.
Yeah, we hope you can join us for more of our adventures at some point soon.
Well, and if you want more information about what we do or how you can join us, just go visit Go2Science.com. You know, and if you make a sun tracker, send us a picture. We'd love to see your results.
Yeah, love to see how it goes over time. Well, thank you all so much for joining us and for all your questions, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.